So when I was a little kid, the battle for good and evil has been going on. This is because we have the yin and the yang, okay? The dark and the light. It's the dichotomy of civilization, okay? It's the dichotomy of the spiritual world, okay? So you have to have one to have the other, okay? The only difference is now we have it on social media, we have it amplified, we have it in the digital world. Good morning, guys. Good morning. And so that begins to become a thing to be dealt with or to be looked at because it gets the most attention. And like I told you, the negative always attracts us because human beings are hardwired for negativity bias. Okay, so that becomes a thing. So, good morning, Jay. Good morning, guys. So how does the battle for good and evil? What is a spiritual war, whatever? Okay, it's not necessarily a war. You're not actively being recruited, or there nobody's trying to recruit you to be evil. Okay, but there is the dark and the light. Okay, and the dark gets pretty dark, and the light is pretty light, and they oppose each other. Okay, so the spiritual war, truth versus illusion. What is truth? Well, truth is the things that belong to the light, okay, or the things that belong to love, things that are outside of love, things that are in the absence of light or in the absence of love are just simply things without love, things that don't know love, or things that have gone from love into the dark, okay, from the light to the dark. Now, I've had clients, many clients actually, that are trying to recover from things, from addictions, from very dark things. And what they do is, they go dark for a while, right? And then it gets too heavy, and then it gets too complicated, it gets too rough, right? And they go back to the light. They go back to church, they go back to these things, and then what happens? Well, then things get boring, okay? But really, in actuality, it's their subconscious, and they go back to the dark because that's what they know, because that's what's in your subconscious, okay? So sometimes, you hear people say, well, his demons got him. I had a friend of mine who was, we made friends here in Hawaii, and he went to Phoenix, Arizona. He became a multimillionaire in real estate, and he built this empire. And one day we got the word, that he had died on the floor of his mansion, and I was happy for him. Okay, not because he died. I was sad that he died, but I was happy for him that he died on the floor of his mansion and not on the floor of his cardboard box, because he discovered the secret. And this is what I'm trying to have you guys learn, okay? And the secret is your subconscious. The secret is all you need to do is program these good things for a little while into your subconscious, and your subconscious will automatically repeat them, okay? And how easy it is to go from the dark to the light when you need to. Now, if you prefer to be in the dark, thank you guys. Hey, I Cooper, good morning. Good morning, sweetheart. How are you? If you prefer to be in the dark, okay, you can be in the dark. But when it gets too dark, at least you know how to go into the light for a while. Okay? Now, what else is the spiritual war? It's fear versus love, basically. Okay? It's fear versus love. Because the highest vibration is love, the lowest vibration is fear. Okay? So when life gets too fearful, okay, it gets too scary, what can you do? Well, you can go towards the light. Okay? And then things will start working again. Most human beings go back and forth. We go back and forth. Now, can you do things like, let's say you drink alcohol. Can you drink alcohol and be spiritual? Yeah, you can. Okay? But if you pull to that side, you're going to stay in the dark. It's going to get dark, okay? Too much. And that, this singer back in the old days, his name was Barry White. He said, too much of anything is no good for you, which it is. So if you pull like that, then what? Well, then you get stuck in the dark, okay? But it's your subconscious. Your subconscious goes into wash, rinse, repeat, okay? So first, okay, we'll drink some wine. Wow, that's good wine. Wow, I like that. Oh, it made me feel good. Okay, then you do it again, then you do it again, then you start hitting it again and again and again. And what happens? Your subconscious goes into wash, rinse, repeat. You start getting addicted to it. Okay, it's not just chemically addicting. It's it's the habit of doing it. It's the habit of going through the process in your subconscious. Okay, so when my friends told me that, my friend died on the floor of his mansion, one of the things they said, because he was a recovering drug addict, well, he recovered, but he was a drug addict years and years ago, and he recovered. And what did they say? They said his demons got him. It wasn't demons, it was his subconscious. Okay? Now, you never know what's going to get you back into your old patterns. It could be a thought, it could be something that happened that you start missing that life, you start missing that part of it. Okay, there's no judgment here from me. I'm not here to say what's right or wrong or good or bad. Okay, I'm just saying how this one works. Okay, how your subconscious works. There's the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Now, your subconscious is so important. Okay, it's the center of your life. And the reason it's the center of your life is because you don't even know how much like you just repeat without being consciously aware. Okay? 95% of your life is on automatic pilot through your subconscious. You think you're making conscious decisions, but your subconscious is making you think things out of repetition. Okay? Things that you've repeated become habits. Okay? Like in the morning when I get my clothes and stuff and I'm getting ready for the live, right? I have to make sure I don't grab the same clothes over and over. I mean, things like that. Okay, it's things that you get in the habit of doing because you don't have to learn how to drive the car every day. You don't have to learn how to brush your teeth every day. All of these things are committed to your subconscious, and many of your actions that you're doing every day out of your subconscious comes from experience that you've had before, comes from trauma that you've had before, comes from reactions of things that from things that you've had before. And all of those things add up. Okay, they all add up and they start becoming part of your personality. Okay, we discuss that all the time. Okay, but when you start looking at your subconscious, okay, the conscious, subconscious, superconscious. Your subconscious is where all your programs are stored. If you want to look at it like a computer, okay, look at it like your conscious mind is your operating system, your subconscious is your hard drive where the programs are stored, and the superconscious is the network that we're all plugged into. Okay, because we're all plugged into awareness. Now, you don't have to necessarily belong to one team or the other team or good or evil or whatever, but the war, it's a perceived war, good against evil. Okay, it's a perceived war. Because there's just as much good as there is evil. But you have to look for the good. And being a human being, you have to really look for the good because you have negativity bias. You're born with it. You're hardwired with it. It's for evolutionary purposes. It's to survive. And most people, the majority of people, when they get affected and they don't learn about these things. Oh, thank you. Hey, Rosanna. Good morning, Rosanna. There's my buddy. And when people don't learn about these things and their subconscious starts running their life, they go into survival mode because of negativity bias, because of all these elements. Okay? So if you're not careful, you can slip into the habit of living in survival mode. And then what? Well, then life becomes one big struggle. It becomes survival. Okay? And things are challenges in that respect, right? You hear people talk about these things every day. Oh, the price of this is so high. Oh, this is so bad. And they're always talking about what's wrong. So I'm here to tell you, if you start talking about what's right, if you start focusing on the glass half full rather than the glass half empty, life starts to change. Why? Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Nothing really fundamentally happened to me until I changed the way I looked at things. And that was around 28 years old. In my 20s, my early 20s, I was living in hell. I was going through hell, living in hell every day. And I say that because I was striking out. I was angry from things that happened when I was a teenager. Okay, so unresolved issues as a teenager plays out in adult life. Soon as you get out of the house, soon as you get on your own, okay, and you're able to express yourself in the way that you want. Now, you know, everybody's different, and everybody has different things that they go through, and everyone has different challenges. Okay, but what happens is, when you discover that, oh, I can change the way I look at this. Okay, my first mentor had a sneaky way of doing it. He did one day at a time to me. And I used to work for him, right? And he goes, "You think you can come to work tomorrow and just not have any drama and don't mention, and don't talk about negative stuff and bad stuff and whatever. Don't want to punch these guys out and stuff like that." I mean, they had those kind of conversations, and I said, okay, all right. And at the end of the day, my reward, okay, because everything is reward with the human being, with the brain, okay, everything is a reward. He goes, "Wow, you did that really, really good." Okay, that was my dopamine hit. He goes, "You think you can do that again tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Next day, same thing. At the end of the day, he goes, "Wow, that was amazing. That was really, really good. You think you can do that again tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then the next day, same thing. At the end of the day, right? He goes, "Wow, that was really good. You think you can do this?" And I go, "Oh, we're doing one day at a time." But that one day at a time turned into a week. That week turned into a month. That turned into 6 months. That turned into a year. That turned into 10 years. And that got me here. And before you know it, life got on track. Did I have a difficult time coming up and all of that? Yeah, sure. Like anybody else, I had to work for it. I had to work. But the work became easy. Okay, it wasn't hard, arduous work. It was a process. There were stepping stones. Life is a process. Okay, but when you look at things properly, and nothing in the world works the way you think it does. Nothing. Okay? The things that you see before you, that have been placed before you, the systems that have been placed before you, you have to rise above the systems and look back down on it and go, okay. Because you can't see it when you're in it. And when you're in it, you can easily be a victim of the system. Easily. But if you see yourself as a victim of the system, and there's many systems, okay? There's the military industrial complex. There's the pharmaceutical, big pharma industrial complex. There's the educational industrial complex, okay? Education takes you like this, and it goes like this. It goes like that. Here, this is what you're going to be, right here, like that. That's what education does to you. I dropped out of college, and when I dropped out of college, I thought I failed. I thought it was a failure. And I went to my mentor and I said, man, I dropped out of college. And without skipping a beat, he looked at me and he said, "That's the best thing you ever did." And I did not know what he meant. And I was like, "What?" Like, he threw me off. I didn't understand what he meant. Then after about 10 years down the road, 10 years from that point, I understood what he meant. Okay. And now I work with executives, and that experience alone helps me with my executives. I'm an executive coach. Okay. So when I work with my executives, I know exactly what to do because they have been taken from here and they have been crunched into this. And this is your hallway, and this is what you walk down now in life. This is what you are. So this represents the attorney. This represents the doctor. This represents, the electrician, whatever. Okay. And that's what they do. But the danger in those things is that the identification that people make with their degrees, with their occupation, okay, they start to identify. So one of my clients last year was one of the top attorneys in real estate in Hawaii. She works for the largest landowner in Hawaii. And she told me, everyone, this was like a couple months in, and she goes, everybody looks at me as the attorney. They talk to me as the attorney. Nobody talks to me as me. They only look at me as the attorney. And she has this impressive career. Super impressive career. And I was like, wow, okay. So we started working on that. We started on working on coming out of herself and into her versus the attorney. So what happens with the identification when you say I am that, or you say I am that, or whatever it is whatever it is, right? It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult to get away from that, to get out of that mold that you have created for yourself. So what do you see yourself as? Do you see yourself as that spirit in here? Or do you see yourself as this body that's just walking around, that's just subject to all of these things that happen in the physical world? How do you see yourself? Thank you. VY, good morning. Welcome. Hey, Regina. So it's very important to have this perspective, to have this ability to separate yourself from the physical world, because you're a spirit. I know it's a weird visual too, right? Watching me, right? Oh, there's this guy in a suit. He's talking about spirituality. Okay? I'm not in white gauze. I'm not wearing a turban. I'm like this, right? It's like, whoa. You have a WTF moment, Okay? But when I started to grasp this, I started studying so many things: quantum physics, string theory, gurus. Okay, I follow gurus. There's gurus that I follow. Okay. And wisdom always comes full circle. Always, okay? It's the Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail. Okay? If you're familiar with esoteric wisdom, it's the snake eating its tail. Buenos dias. Hey, buenos dias. Infinite wealth. Infinitum wealth. Yeah, there you go. Good morning. The snake eating its tail. Why does it do that? Well, there's the beginning, right? And it goes around. There's no end. It's infinite. There's the number 8, infinity. Because there's no end to you in here. You are eternal. This energy that you are, this spirit that you are, is eternal. So how do we manifest the ideal life? Because when I was younger, in my 20s, I was stuck. I didn't have money. I was broke. Like I didn't have anything, right? Like, how do I get the car? How do I get the girl? How do I get the career? How do I, right? Today is exactly 2 weeks when I started doing affirmations, and for sure I'm seeing a lot of change. Yeah, there you go. I'm so happy. It's your subconscious. Very, very good. You're very welcome. That's why I'm here. That's exactly why I'm here. You're very welcome. I'm so happy to hear that. That makes me happy. That makes my heart happy. In 2 weeks, you feel the shift, okay? But you need to commit, okay? And I see a lot of women here. And so the majority of my clientele are women. They're females. Okay, women always seek confidence. They always seek knowledge. They always seek why? Because it's a man's world. Okay, men control everything. All right. Okay, and there's that old joke about all women's problems begin with men, right? And they have menopause. They have no, never mind. I'm not going to get into that. But so what is What are some of the solutions now to the war of good and evil? It's not a true war. You're not being invaded by evil, but you need to stand up what you believe in, stand up for what you believe in, because there needs to be a balance. And you need to be a part of that balance if you are part of the, let's say, the light side and not the dark side. Okay, this is actually awakening versus autopilot. Okay? And this is how we say it. This is how we present it here. Awakening versus what is all autopilot? That's your subconscious. Some people never wake up. They just go on autopilot. Okay, but now we have half Darlington. Half Darlington here is 2 weeks into her affirmation, and she's figuring it out. She's feeling the shift. Okay. So what's the lesson there? The lesson there is if you do it, it happens. If you do it, okay. So a lot of this, and this is not some people can and some people cannot. This is every human being can, because we're all aware. We share awareness. Okay. So when you break out of the autopilot, why is the autopilot bad? Oh, the autopilot's just right? How could it be bad? It's just the things that we've done and now it's going in a circle. How is that bad? Well, it depends what you've been conditioned into. Everybody's different. Some people believe television commercials for an example. Okay? Some people believe what they see on TV. What is a belief? A belief is a thought you keep thinking. So what happens? Well, they keep thinking the thought. They keep thinking about it, and then they start to believe it. Well, what if you start to believe movies? Okay? What if you start to believe, Harlequin romance novels? Okay? What if you start to believe, you see, the TV news? We're all on this planet, and everybody's at war. Everybody's being violent. Everybody's being, like that. It's a terrible place. The world is a terrible place, right? Wrong. It's not. These things are being amplified, and you are looking for negativity because you're a human being. Negativity bias. Confirmation bias says that you look at the negative things and you go, there's a negative thing. Okay. You confirm it, right? Oh, I knew it was negative. There it is, right? Confirmation bias. But what we're trying to show you, what we're trying to demonstrate to you, it's not about being a good person or bad person, or it's not about being, perfect or not perfect. It's not about being a saint. It's not about that at all. It's about being awake. It's about awakening versus programmed. If you're awake, then you can see it coming. If you're awake, you can see these things. But before you're separated from it, you can't see it because you're in it. You don't know you're being led because it seems normal. It's just another day. It's just another, right? And the things that you're receiving, because your actions are the way they are, however they are, look around you. The things that you have, the things that you own, the people that you associate with, your friends. I'm not talking about coworkers, like the people that you have as friends. If you want to change any of that, if you want to change all of it, you can, easily. But it takes a little commitment, just a little bit. Write it down every day. Okay, do 10 minutes of silence every day. Now, outer chaos versus inner alignment. You need to be aligned in here, okay? When things are chaotic out here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter unless you choose to join. When you join, okay, when you engage, you join. Or you're going to engage. And this is the most simple, most fundamental part of engagement. Any action is engagement at the energetic level because you are energetic. Okay? This in here, you are a spirit, you are energy, and you are powerful. You are so powerful. Let me give you examples of engaging. It happens quickly, especially when your will is set. Yes, you have to make up your mind. You're perfectly correct. You're absolutely correct. So if you see something, let's say you're on one of these. Let's say you're on one of these. Okay? And let's say you're scrolling. And let's say you see something and you go, "Oh," and you like it. You've engaged. Okay? Let's say you write a comment. You've engaged. You have joined that reality. Now, can you pull yourself out of that reality? Of course, easy. Just like that. Shift your focus, shift your attention. We are human beings. We are the most intelligent beings on the planet. We can switch and switch and switch and switch. Humans have multiple paradigms. So when you hear people, thought leaders, tell you, "Oh, you have to change your paradigm," and they want to sell you a big, $1,600 package, $5,000 package, or they want you to go join their, their 3-day retreat or something, whatever it is. Sure, you can do that. If you have the money to do that, if you have disposable income like that, sure, you can do that. It's good for you. It'll be good for you. But what they're not telling you are the little things with your subconscious that you can do that would change everything. I looked online one day because I was looking at therapists and their methods, okay? Because I'm familiar with therapy methods. And I looked for therapists using the voice because I do somatic healing. And my somatic healing involves the human voice and expression. And only one psychologist I could find, only one in the United States that did that. Somatic healing with frequency, with sound. But the only thing was, it wasn't using the human voice. She was having her patients listen to frequency music. You can find it on YouTube. Okay. And there's a process. You get someone relaxed. It's almost like hypnosis, almost. You have them relax, you give them a countdown, you count them in, and then they're still and they're listening to the music. And this begins to create chemistry changes in the brain. And people begin to relax. With your voice, it pulls you into the moment. Okay? It pulls you into the moment. And what happens? Well, when it pulls you into the moment, it pulls you out of the hypnosis. And people don't really understand what this is until, I have a couple of clients that tune in every day. I don't know if Sarah's here. I don't know if So Dakota is here. But I have a couple of clients that are on my lives normally every morning, and they're experiencing it. I did this process with a psychiatrist, okay? A psychiatrist that writes prescriptions for medicine. And on his fourth 1-hour session, my executive sessions, and these are expensive, but he's a psychiatrist, right? He can afford it. At the end of the 4th hour, that 4th session, I said, "Well, Doc," because I was interested in what he was going to say because he's an expert. They're here. All right. I love Marlene. She's so sweet. And she's a hard worker, very hard worker. And so I said, "Doc," I said, "do you feel the difference? Do you feel it?" And he goes, I can't put my finger on it, but yeah, I feel it. He couldn't explain it. A psychiatrist could not explain this, okay? Because it's spirit, it's exercising your spirit. People normally just view it as a voice. You just view your vision as vision. But you can observe your thoughts, right? You can observe your thoughts. Then, if you can observe your thoughts, who's thinking the thoughts? You see? Your awareness. You are aware of your thoughts. You're not your thoughts. You're not your body. You're not your name. You're that spirit that lives in here. But that spirit goes into repetition through the subconscious. That spirit is led to believe that it's part of everything else. That spirit, right, is conditioned into thinking it's no big deal. You're just a person walking around on the planet. That's all. You're just this physical person that's going to die one day, and then it's over. No, I'm here to tell you that's not it. Out of everything I've studied, and I've studied thousands of hours, but out of everything I've studied, it all points to one thing. This dies. This body gets old. These things get old. Okay? As we speak, I'm getting older. My body's getting older. My spirit in here, I feel the same way I did when I was 16. Don't you feel the same way you did 10 years ago? 20 years ago? Depending on how old you are. Okay? The spirit doesn't die. You are immortal in here. And you will come again. And you will have a different experience. But you live one time this way. Let me go back to that. Can you pin the favorite quote? Missing your affirmation is like falling down the stairs and crawling back up. Yeah, you gotta get back on the horse, kind of, so to speak, right? Lucifer. Okay, Lucifer. All right. What a name. Okay. Know what? I don't. Sorry, I'm not really watching every time I say something. I don't. You can ask me questions, or you can make statements. Oh, I think therefore I am. Of course. Of course. The key part of that, Lucifer, is I am. Okay? Because if you're, oops, okay. Let me do it. There we go. The key part is I am, because I am is awareness. I am is in here. You are, I am. I am, you are. So the thinking, okay, is one thing. The awareness of the thinking is the other. And you are awareness. Okay? You can observe the thoughts. You hear them in your voice because you hear your voice all the time. So the two things, right? And I talk about this all the time, and I'm kind of skipping around today. And the reason I skip around is because I want to wake people up. If I talked about one thing, tomorrow you got to come in for the next thing. But if I talk about all of these things and just kind of give you a perspective on it, pretty soon you go, yeah, wow, yeah. I'm a lot more than just this meat suit walking around. I'm not this meat suit, right? And that's why I'm here, just to wake you up. So what happens anyway is you are aware of your thoughts. Now, you can choose your thoughts. You know, a lot of people say, well, my thoughts are racing. I have so many thoughts. You can be a prisoner to your thoughts if you believe your thoughts, if you trust that you are your thoughts. But you're not your thoughts. All you need to do is step back and let the thought pass. Observe the thought like they're clouds. Like clouds move like that, and they kind of go by. Okay? Because if you do that, you don't get the emotion that follows the thought, that the thought triggers. Okay? And this is inner alignment. Inner alignment happens when the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious are in alignment. Why is that? Well, because when you think the thought, okay, so the thought's coming, you're observing the thought, okay? And you go, this is a good thought. All right, choose the thought. Now you engage. When you engage, you join. Now you are embracing the thought. Now you're thinking about it. If you do this in repetition, right, it goes into your subconscious. When it goes into your subconscious, it becomes a belief. A belief is a thought you keep thinking. Then the subconscious goes, I wonder what we can do, what road we can create, what path can I create? Okay? It's like neural pathways forming, but it's not really. It's just the subconscious going, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do this. If it's a new car, maybe you can get a side hustle, maybe you can get an extra job, maybe you can work longer hours, maybe you can get a loan, maybe. And pretty soon you'll select one of those things, but it's a result of your subconscious working off of what you believe. Because at that point you believe that new car is the thing. What does the superconscious do? The superconscious, when the superconscious is in perfect alignment, it's working off your subconscious. It's going, okay, well, new loan? All right, let's create the right people to come into play. And pretty soon, you go to the right bank. You choose the right person. You work with the right person, right? If it's not the right person, you'll know. You'll get rid of them. You'll change people, okay? Maybe you change banks. Maybe that's part of the process. But the superconscious maps this out for you. And as you go and take the steps, the doors begin to open. You always get what you want. You always get what you want. You just don't get it the way you think. And because you don't get it the way you think, sometimes it looks like it's not what you want. But you always arrive at the destination. It's just not the ride you thought. Okay, so the Christians have a saying for that. Okay, they say it'll happen God's way. It won't happen your way, it'll happen God's way. What they're really talking about is divine intervention. They're talking about intuition. They're talking about intuitive thought. Because these are the feelings that we get, intuitive thought, that guide us along the path. So sometimes when you plan, you have, 4 steps. But instead of, let's say you take the first step, then you do the second thing, and then you do the third thing, and it takes you all the way out in left field to something that you never thought of. And then it happens. And then you go, wow, it happened. I didn't even get to the 4th step. I stopped planning 25 years ago. I stopped planning because I used to plan methodically every step. That's the logic, left hemisphere of the brain. That's the logical process. Plan, schedule. Okay? That's the physical world. God doesn't have anything to do with that part of it. God is in here. God knows no time. If you want to say universe, you want to say God, you want to say source, it's all the same thing. Because we're all the same in here. I work with spirits every week. Very powerful spirits.